George, do you know what my favorite line in this movie is?
Is it, she doesn't want to be white trash anymore. I told her, you're white, honey. Just deal with it.
That's the one. I found it to be such a weird thing to say.
Because you think all white people are trash.
Not where I was going with that.
Why not? White people fucking suck. I mean, except, me and Kit and my friends. We're the good ones. And a bunch of most of your friends, too.
I just thought this black girl in this 100% white environment would have other thoughts beyond, you're a white girl, deal with it. It just didn't seem authentic to me.
You're telling me that you think a movie about teenage witches who can cast spells and float in the air is inauthentic? I am shocked to hear that.
What exactly is white trash?
White trash is what happens when white people run out of non-white people to hate, so we decide beating up on poor white people will be fun.
Are you saying white people are only happy if they have somebody to look down upon?
Now you're getting it. I told you. White people fucking suck.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast looks at old movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romaka. And today we're discussing The Craft from 1999. That is not about the craft services table at a different movie filming.
And it's not about macaroni.
Nope. And some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. You can reach Joe on Blue Sky, but we recorded the Patron's Choice episode where he actually included that thing, and that'll release before this one does, and we wrote this script first, so it's not in here. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones who can cast spells and float and shit.
Oh, especially them. In fact, I want to meet the ones who can do that.
Mm-hmm. We're just looking for reasons to not be skeptics anymore. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod. And one more thing, we have a guest. Please welcome the pixie cuttiest gorgeous lady that I love so much, Kit Nowokunski.
Hello.
Applause sound.
Yay, applause for me. Okay.
How long does that go on?
Stop that.
So this is one of the ones that just came with Riverside that I usually delete, but because I forgot to put the applause sound in there, I just hit cheering. And it's 40 seconds fucking long, and I didn't do it.
Well, we need to pad out this movie, so.
I guess.
I wonder what clapping is.
Stop that. Stop it. Stop it.
This one's only 10 seconds long.
Okay.
Okay, Kit.
Well, I picked the movie because it runs with the theme of the Girl Bullies, and it's Halloween times. It was a very popular movie when I was a youth. It's very, very much a town of the 90s, that's for sure.
Did you enjoy this as a kid? I mean, like, was it one of your favorite films or just a collection of films you saw?
I thought it was just the cringiest shit.
At the time in 1996?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that meme where, you're Homer in the bar and everyone around you is Spider-Man or something and you're just Homer in a bar. That's how I felt about The Craft. Like, people were really into being witchy and I was like, you're kind of cheesy about it. It's the religious version of writing a lot of bad poetry. That's what Wicca is. And that's how I felt about The Craft.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then.
Well, I'm glad you picked it, then.
Yeah.
So, Joe, take us back to the halcyon days of 1996.
We're going to do another short history section to make sure this episode isn't longer than the movie we're talking about. Today's focus, we're going to take a look at witchcraft as practiced in Los Angeles in 1996. This is from the Los Angeles Times. Headline, George.
Modern-day witches. Religion. More often misunderstood or maligned than practice. Wait, did you write this or did you copy and paste?
This is strictly them. This is all...
Okay. Anything that sounds weird, you can blame it on the headline because this was copy and pasted. Modern-day witches, religion, more often misunderstood or maligned than practice. Wicca is a recognized belief system of pagans, including OC residents whose temple is Earth.
If you're more familiar with Wicca, feel free to write in and tell us if this is true or not. According to this article, witches greet each other by saying, "Merry meet." Meet being M-E-E-T, not M-E-A-T. M-E-A-T is the meat we use when George and I greet each other when we sword fight. I guess I should have asked this before. What do either of you know about Wicca?
I've had a lot of Wiccan friends. I've read some books. I decided it was stupid. So I decided not. If you're into occult religions, I highly recommend looking into a book written by a British gentleman named Michael Jordan called, I think it's...
Doesn't he play basketball?
You'd think so. No, this is a white dude. A British white dude.
God, white people appropriating even black people's names.
Well,
Hate to see
I'm fairly certain he's older, and he used to do wildlife documentary something or other, but now he does a bunch of books on the occult and spirits and gods and goddesses and all that stuff. He did a great book on the Wiccan pagan religions that made me decide it was stupid as fuck. And so I was like, if I'm not going to believe in something, I'm not going to believe in Catholicism, and that's what I'll do for the rest of my life.
Was the book anti-Wicca, or it was just...
No, it had, Wiccanism in it, but it had a bunch of pagan religions that are active. The book went through, like, their origins and things like that, just like you would a book on a bunch of Christian faiths, I guess. But as far as Merry Meet, that sounds hilarious, that they would say Merry Meet, but I think that's more of a Ren Fair thing. I think that if you're in the Society of Creative Anachronisms, you say Merry Meet when you greet each other, and there's probably a decent crossover between the SCA and people who participate in pagan religion.
I have to wonder if, remember, this is from 1996. It's possible that people just stopped doing that. But I've certainly, not that I've known that many pagans, but I've known a few. I've never heard anybody say this. But
Merry Meet, my friend!
Merry Meet! Merry Meet! Merry Meet to you, sir! George, when you guys were hanging up chicken bones in your ship, were you also doing any of the guys who were into witchery stuff, Wicca stuff?
Not that I'm aware of, but I know that between being a Christian and becoming an atheist, I spent a year as a shamanic practitioner because apparently I couldn't go cold turkey on spirituality.
Wait a minute, so isn't that a Native American thing?
That and a bunch of other...
Yeah.
Indigenous type places. What modern shamanism practiced by white people is things gleaned from pre-colonial civilizations.
And what were some of the things you would do? What were some of the rituals? Do you remember?
A kind of meditation. I do mindfulness meditation now, but what I did then was listen to like repetitive drum rhythms. My mind would wander and I would call it a vision.
That sounds, as far as things go, sounds harmless enough, though.
Yeah, and none of it worked to affect anything, which is why it only took a year to be like, oh, never mind, I'm just an atheist. I did try to make out with a Wiccan at a YMCA lock-in between 8th and 9th grades.
I will straight up tell you what the harm is. Like you say, it seems harmless. I know a girl who just spent $2,000 to get a certification in healing crystals and how to channel energy into them. $2,000. On top of that, it's like a 2-week course. She's made it into a business, which means other people are giving her money for this thing that doesn't help them. That's the harm. It's a slippery slope of delusion that becomes a negative cost for everybody. Get into actual rocks. If you like pretty things, just buy the pretty things for the sake of the pretty thing.
Makes sense. All right, back to the article. Let me quote from that. While not widely known or practiced, Wicca is a recognized religion in this country. Its practices are summarized in the handbook carried by military chaplains. Wiccan priests and priestesses are licensed to marry and bury, and they regularly attend interfaith conferences, easily talking shop with Catholics, Jews, and Buddhists. The current president of Washington State's Interfaith Council is a Wiccan priest. Of course, again, this is 1996. End quote. I wonder how right-wing Christians, have lost their ever-loving mind.
Stop.
Sorry.
Don't assume that they didn't. They do.
Yeah,
They
of course they
regularly lose their minds about this shit.
So, like, and also, who the fuck is the Washington State's Interfaith Council? Like, who the fuck are these people even?
I don't know, but there is an interfaith council. I'm just surprised that because they think this is all witchcraft is like Satanism.
Yeah,
so
of course.
with these people.
They sure
because
do.
they think Satanism is something, which of course we know it isn't. Back to the 1996 article. Practitioners of Wicca comfortably call themselves witches and use the tools so often mocked, such as the broom, a purifying symbol, the wand, candles, crystals, and the knife, known as athame. How do you say
Athame.
Athame, thank you. They refer to their practices as witchcraft or the craft. Wiccans generally describe their faith as a revival of the primitive pagan rituals before Christianity came along nearly 2,000 years ago. Early Christians described pagans as those who still believed that spiritual power came from the sun, the moon, and the earth rather than from a Christian god. End quote.
That reminds me, I also used to burn sage sticks and smudge the house.
Oh,
Smudging
yeah,
being
that's
the practice
terrible.
of using the smoke from a bundle of sage to drive out bad spirits and shit.
Well, we're all agreed that it's all bullshit. I don't
Yeah.
go any further. Okay, George, tell us about the craft.
So this was written and directed by Andrew Fleming,
whose work I've seen in Hamlet 2.
So he wrote and directed a sequel to Shakespeare's Hamlet.
Okay, you don't know about this picture. It's a comedy. It's a joke. This teacher, I think an English professor, decides, I'm going to write a new Shakespeare play, and he writes Hamlet 2. It's
the sequel.
it's meant to be funny. It's not... He didn't literally put together Hamlet 2.
And this was also written by Peter Filardi.
All right, George, what do the blurbs say?
Okay, IMDb says, a newcomer to a Catholic prep school falls in with a trio of outcast teenage girls who practice witchcraft, and they all soon conjure up various spells and curses against those who anger them. All right.
Sure. Was it a Catholic? Wow.
It was a Catholic school. Amazon says, 4 high school misfits who experiment with witchcraft must deal with the consequences of their newfound abilities. Okay. Sure. YouTube says, Sarah has always been different. So as the new girl at St. Benedict's Academy, she immediately falls in with the high school outsiders. But these girls won't settle for being powerless misfits. They have discovered the craft, and they are going to use it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Says so many more words than the other blurbs and says so much less.
I mean, it's compelling writing, I guess. Good for you, YouTube.
No, it's only compelling because I read it like that.
Do you really feel compelled?
I thought it was a little creepy that you read it like that, but I was keeping my mouth shut.
The opening sequence shows the 3 main supporting characters around a table with all the accoutrement of witchcraft like pentagrams, chalices, candles, and sage sticks. They chant, "Now is the time, now is the hour, ours is the magic, ours is the power," a few times before the title and credits start.
Before you go on, I meant to ask you this. What exactly are sage sticks supposed to do?
The smoke is like...
it's magic smoke.
It's magic smoke. It drives away evil spirits because they don't like how it smells.
Because sage is stinky.
So
and
it does nothing for your apartment then.
I was tempted to rewind and see, like, because they have a lot of candles. I was like, are any of these like a birthday unicorn candle or something? They had an excess of candles.
Yeah.
Tons of candles make me very nervous. I'm so sure the place is going to burn down.
These 3 are Nancy, Bonnie, and Rochelle. Nancy is the most gothy of the 3 and seems to be the de facto leader of the group. Bonnie's defining characteristic will be burn scars all over her back. Rochelle is their black friend.
That's pretty much her character, right?
Yep. Nancy Downs is played by Fairuza Balk. And for the show, we saw her in American History X and Almost Famous.
And I've seen her in Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans.
And I've seen her in The Maker and The Water Boy, 2 movies with "the" in the title.
That's probably what made you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bonnie is played by Nev Campbell.
And we've all seen in Scream.
Yep. And Rochelle is played by Rachel True.
And I've seen her in CB4. That's also true.
What the hell was CB4?
It was a parody, actually, of a documentary.
Ah.
I believe Chris Rock is in it. It's one of his first films.
All right, we see our protagonist, Sarah, and her family arrive at the airport during a torrential downpour that continues until they arrive at their new home. Sarah Bailey is played by Robin Tunney, who I've seen in Encino Man.
Not the Encino Man?
Not the Encino Man, nope. The new house is big and leaks like Joe's bathroom ceiling, my bedroom ceiling, or the roof where I work. Upstairs, Sarah unpacks a photo of her birth mother who didn't survive that birth. Then she comes down the stairs, and because nobody thought to close the front door, she is frightened by a vagrant offering her a snake that he found nearby.
You want this snake?
Her father runs the guy off. The vagrant is played by Arthur Senzi,
whom I've seen in The American President and A Few Good Men.
And we've both seen in Apollo 13.
Yes.
Yeah, and you'll notice that they left the doors unlocked. I mean, to be fair, they were moving stuff in, but I think they had gotten all the boxes, I think those were dropped off ahead of time. So who knows if having the doors open was normal.
It was a pretty easy move for them, too, apparently. They didn't need movers or anything.
No, they had their stuff shipped ahead of time. There were boxes already there, but no one cleaned the house. So, which explains why there's leaks and everything, too. They get there and I'm like, wow, they must have just got a shit deal on that. It's probably a foreclosure.
Maybe they closed the build, or rather people sold it because vagrants are coming in with snakes and they're like, I can't live here.
That's true.
On her first day at her new Catholic school, as her father drops her off, he expresses concern and a willingness to wait until her uniforms arrive so she won't stand out. Sarah declines and heads into the school. For once, we don't get any kind of click walk.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
We just see the three douche bros of the film hurl unimaginative insults at the three witches.
It was actually very insular. In the other movies, you had them bringing in other characters and other things to entertain you about these groups, and here it's just those boys and these girls.
Chris is their head douche and will be Sarah's inexplicable crush for a while. The other two are Mitt and Trey and are as obnoxiously juvenile as one would expect with names like that. Chris Hooker is played by Skeet Ulrich,
whom we've all seen in Scream.
And I've seen in Weekend at Bernie's and As Good as It Gets.
Was it As Good as It Gets?
It was.
Okay. Mitt is played by Bricken Meyer, who we've seen in Clueless and King of the Hill, the TV show, obviously, who we've both seen in Road Trip, and I've seen in Go.
And I've seen in Escape from L.A. And Trey is played by Nathan Marston,
who was in One Life to Live. Don't play the soap music here, because while I know he played Max Holden's son, I barely remember his character. I probably wasn't watching at the time. He had a storyline. For some reason, the only thing I remember is him being 10 or something and lighting candles, and a dialogue with something like this. Max Holden, you're not supposed to be playing with candles. Al Holden, I'm not playing, I'm lighting candles. Max Holden, I'm raising a lawyer. That's it. That's all I remember. And I know he would make Max feel bad for not raising him, but I looked at his wiki page and I don't remember one plot line this dude was in. Sorry.
That was still long enough that I could have used the soap opera music.
So he was in it as a child? He was a child actor?
He was Max. He was a child. He was the illegitimate, if you can use that term anymore, child of Max Holden. Max, slept around with a bunch of women in town. And they just wrote him into the cast, and suddenly Max had a son. That was that. And I think his mother may have been Delilah. Well, I'm sure he was fine, but I just didn't follow his character that much.
Yeah.
Okay. The three witches stop at Nancy's locker and check an almanac for their horoscope.
Which is weird.
It hints at the plot of the movie. A newcomer who can be the fourth corner of their circle or whatever.
Hey, George, when you were a kid, did you ever look at the almanac? Did you ever have the year's almanac? Joe?
No, we had television and weather people.
You had that in telegrams, Joe?
Pony Express?
Did you use the almanac? Did you ever actually read an almanac?
Yeah, we had almanac.
Okay, so refresh my memory. It didn't have witchy shit in it, did it?
Well, no.
This is some kind of witch's almanac, isn't it?
Anything can be witchy if you're demented enough.
Yeah, but she's like the snake shall fall from the sky on the fourth sun and the third moon. This is a weird almanac.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was just basically talking about the weather, that's all. And she decided to use it
the weather
for
and
reasons.
Great changes and spirits from the north. No, normal almanacs don't talk like this almanac.
I everything about spirits, but I to be honest, obviously I forgot a lot of this movie.
Oh, fair. Fair.
In French class, Skater Boy fucks up his French. Sarah helps, drawing attention to herself, and then Bonnie observes Sarah balancing a pencil on its point on her desk. Because magic.
Yeah, it was magic.
It was magic because it doesn't just balance, it starts turning on the point.
I mean, even balancing a pencil on its point is pretty magic.
As much as I hate the magic bullshit that happens in this movie, the practical effects, other than one which I absolutely hate, weren't terrible. Actual magic was happening if you believe the world of this bullshit. Like I said, I did not enjoy this spellcraft. Bad poetry.
In chemistry class, Sarah asks to sit with the three witches. Nancy stares meanly until she leaves before Bonnie can say she thinks Sarah is their fourth. Then it's lunch, the other time in a high school movie when we'd get a click walk that this movie doesn't bother to do. Sarah gets hit on by Chris, who pretends to be more mature than he really is. Sarah confides that the three witches were mean to her. He invites her to watch his football practice like Oz did with lacrosse and American Pie. After school, Sarah does go watch Chris's football practice. Then the three witches show up and Bonnie apologizes for Nancy, who warns Sarah that Chris is a jerk. They invite her to go shopping and she leaves with them. On the walk to the store, the witches notice vertical scarring on Sarah's wrists from a suicide attempt that we will only see one flashback to and will never matter to the story at all.
It does. It 100%
really
matters to the story. It drives, like everything that Sarah shares with these girls about pain that she's had in her life. Spoiler. They're going to take it and use it against her. Every single thing. And those cuts are just one thing. And they point out that she did it, quote unquote, the right way. So that you notice later when they slice her wrist, it's not the right way.
I have to agree with George. I don't think it really does matter to most of the story. It's like,
it's just one thing in a list of things they use to get under her skin.
Other than she's upset because her mom is dead, like they don't give a reason as to like what drove her to suicide though. So in that way it doesn't matter because it doesn't give her anything other than I tried to kill myself.
It just points her out as damaged.
Yeah,
I
it
guess.
feels like
she feels, what? As someone who is neurotic about like scratches and anything on my skin, and I will cover them up just so people don't have to face them around these people that she has just met and maybe doesn't want to share that information to. Like it's just a plot driving device.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's just a plot-driving development. Like when people, as me and George have pointed out in other films, or maybe in this one, when people fall in love and there's nothing about those characters that makes any sense. These people be into each other whatsoever. It's obviously because the plot says so, and that felt like the plot says so type thing.
Yeah, everybody has the things that are wrong with people. It's literally, it's obviously to drive the plot because it necessitates it.
Sure, but it should develop naturally in the story. If it doesn't, then it just feels forced. But
well, I mean, they dump like the girl with her scars and the other girl with being black. Ready-made plot drivers.
Yeah, the racism there was also weird. But we'll get into some of the whole racism thing she gets from that girl. That was odd. But anyway.
The store is an occult supply store, like an alchemy/bookstore in a fantasy role-playing game.
Your standard witch store.
Yeah. Bonnie tries to convince Sarah to steal a magic journal. The store owner, Lirio, stops Sarah from entering a back room partitioned off by a tapestry. Lirio divines that Sarah's ring belonged to her dead mother and sells her some candles and a book called The Craft, with instructions on how to use them beyond light the wick and listen to the Who's Tommy album.
Lirio is played by Assumpta Serna.
Or Dollar Store Jane Seymour.
Dollar Store Jane Seymour, okay.
I mean,
Listen,
she looked vaguely Jane Seymour-esque. That's an appropriate reference.
They don't really get into it, but you have to wonder how exactly does this store stay in business? Because clearly she doesn't have that many shoppers, and the what do go there, some of them steal from her.
Okay, so I can tell you how that store stays in business.
Meth?
Conning
drug
people?
dealer front?
No, they fucking do tarot readings, dispel curses.
Remember, this is a store in a universe where this shit works.
Either way, I can say if you go to a store in this world, that's how they make their money.
Off of people who think it works. Yeah, maybe she owned it outright, so all she had to pay on it was the taxes every year.
Yeah.
Maybe, because like no other people shop in that store. We only see the girls every time they go to that store. It's either the owner's there and then the girls come in and that's it.
There's big money in fucking magic, man. There's big money in people wishing. And there always will be. There's always going to be someone who's going to take advantage of that.
What was the movie where the guy sells the record?
Yeah.
High Fidelity. He had customers at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, maybe it's magic.
You never see people like milling around in the witch's shop.
I guess not.
We had witch shops in our town, George. And every town's got at least like a couple psychics.
In Manhattan, every block has at least one psychic on it. It's nighttime when they leave into what could be mistaken for Gotham City. The witches caution Sarah to keep looking ahead and not at the snake oil salespeople and unhoused beggars lining the sidewalk. The vagrant with the snake from before shows up with another snake.
Mm-hmm.
He chases after Sarah, saying that he had a dream about her in which she dies. Then the four girls silently and simultaneously wish for him to get creamed by a taxi cab, and
Did
that
they, though?
happens, so they take off.
Did
I think
they
that's
though?
implied.
I think they thought he's gonna.
Okay, just hold on a second, because in the next scene, they run to a campsite and then all agree that they all wished for the taxi creaming.
I guess, but this is post fact. That could happen in real life.
Why would a man come to tell us that's chasing this girl with a snake anyway? It's very strange, very phallic.
Didn't you know this snake is a very powerful animal?
Well, the snake is one of the avatars of Manon, who Nancy rapturously describes as more than a deity or devil.
Manon. It's like you take him into you. It's like he fills you. He takes everything that's gone wrong in your life, and he makes it all better again.
I didn't remember that breathing.
Yeah.
He takes it into you.
She is heavy on the creep and uncomfortableness. I find her to be, I'm sure she's a lovely person in real life, but I find her as an actress to be extremely unpleasant to watch. She does that creep and uncomfortableness so well. Like, I get the feeling like if you're within a foot of her, she might bite off your hand. And slow, okay. Too. Like, she's a creepy lady.
Wow, that's a lot of projection there. You don't know this poor lady?
That smile, all those gums, man. She's got it like, she's like a Lady Tony Robinson.
Okay. By the way, if that actress would like to ever be on our show, let us know.
Yeah.
Send an email.
Please don't bite off my hand.
Who the hell are we talking about? Who was the actress? Who was playing this role you talking about?
Fairuza Balk.
Yeah.
Okay.
The girlfriend in American History X.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They posit that Sarah is a natural witch. She says she's been able to do some witchy type stuff, but it always comes out kind of like the monkey paw from The Simpsons. Sarah gets weirded out by all this and leaves to go make out with Chris on a rooftop. So Chris makes some small talk about liking Sarah's head and asks her to come home with him. She declines and he says that's okay, as if he's not a complete jerkface. Don't be fooled, he's a complete jerkface.
Mm-hmm.
At school the next day, we find out that Chris is the kind of jerkface that will tell an entire school that he had sex with someone that he did not in fact have sex with.
Which I have to say, in all these films, that's probably the most accurate depiction of high school they got.
Yeah, and I never understand why guys do that. Are they, like, they're so afraid of... Are they afraid of actually having sex? Because that's what's never going to happen.
What they want, I never did this myself, but I'm telling you, the reason the guys do is just to bond with your other friends. You're like, oh yeah, I had her. It's just a guy bullshit.
Why not con her on a few more dates and actually fuck her? Is like, I mean, at least get some.
In real life, actual boys who do get to have sex sometimes actually have emotion and care about the girl they're having sex with and won't do that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, this guy is clearly manipulative.
He's manipulative, but he's impatient.
I guess.
Yeah, he probably has banged some other girls.
So we can just chalk it up to a impatient teenage boy who doesn't care enough to invest long enough.
This man this child confounds me.
Yeah, and I think the typical boy. I didn't have sex with her, I just said.
Yeah, he's got some weird dynamics. I gotta think he gets off on it more than just my friends think I'm cool.
Sarah confronts him at his locker. Backed by his sycophantic sidekicks, Chris is unapologetic. At the school pool, during diving practice, Rochelle sets up for a dive. Another student, Laura, yells out mid-dive to distract her, kind of like the guy in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, she yells out shark.
Yeah, and Rochelle backflops. In the locker room...
Why would that work? You know, you're in a pool. There's no shark. Why would that even go? There'd be nothing but water off her back. No pun intended.
It's an excuse to have a bunch of wet teenagers running around. Just don't ask questions, Joe.
In the locker room, Laura turns out to be straight up racist. Laura Lizzie is played by Christine Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Whom I've seen in Tropic Thunder, The Brady Bunch, and a very Brady sequel.
And I've seen in The Wedding Singer, Zoolander, Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story, and the Nickelodeon TV show Hey Dude, which I had not thought about in 30 years.
Was she as exceptionally beautiful then as she is in this movie? Because in spite of the racism, I was like, she is so pretty.
She was super pretty in Hey Dude.
I have a crush on Laura Lizzie. I would just like to declare this right now.
No, you don't.
Even when she's... Why?
No,
she's terrible? Oh, Christine Tyler. I do not have a crush on Laura Lizzie. Ha ha ha! She's a Nazi. As long as you're not a Nazi, Miss Taylor, my heart is yours. You're a beautiful woman.
At a hospital, Bonnie has a painful first round of robot-delivered gene therapy injections to cure her scars all over her back and arms.
Yep, skipped right over that.
At night, there's a thunderstorm and Sarah can't sleep. She flashes back to her suicide attempt. That same night, Nancy returns to her home in a trailer park with her mother and stepfather arguing over money. Nancy's roof leaks too, and she waterboards herself. The three witches invite Sarah on a field trip. They go to a field and perform a four corners binding ritual. They drink each other's blood and make some wishes. Bonnie wishes to be beautiful outside and in. Rochelle wishes to take the high road with racists.
Why? Why, Rochelle?
Good question, Joe. Sarah wishes for Chris to fall in love with her. And Nancy wishes for all the power of Menon.
Which, if you're going to do a spell, why not go with that one?
I mean, shouldn't everyone wish for all the power of Menon?
Yeah, I mean, if wishes work. Give me all the... I want to be an all-powerful genie! In school, Chris is spellbound by Sarah because her wish came true. After school, at Bonnie's house, they go up to the attic to try light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Mm-hmm.
After some fingering jokes, they levitate Rochelle, dropping her when Bonnie's mom comes in. And I gotta say, the fingering jokes? Couple of high school kids? Okay, no, you know what? That's exactly what would happen in that moment.
No. Maybe with guys.
When one of them holds up their fingers like that, and the other one's like this, that's where you go with that.
You don't think they did fingering in the 90s?
No. I mean, to be fair, they're in high school too, so never mind. Yeah, that makes sense. I just wasn't thinking that it would be like a bunch of girls making jokes about being fingered. And then I flash back to like my friends talking about penis breath, and I'm like, you guys are giving blowjobs? Jesus Christ.
We get a confident high school witches montage. The only thing of note is seeing Sarah pluck a hair from Laura, the blonde racist from the swim team. And that night, Sarah weaves the strand of Laura's hair into Rochelle's as part of a protection spell. And Bonnie implores Menon to take her scars. So that's where the spell is actually cast.
Of all the spells I would have on a racist, having them just have their hair fall out really wouldn't be enough for me. I can think of so many better things. I understand it's a teenage girl and her hair is the most important thing to her, but give me a break. I know.
I think it was part of because that's something that she attacked. This bitch made fun of her nappy hair, so she's going to lose her hair.
I guess I'd still have something worse happen than having her hair. She said all sorts of racist stuff too.
If they could have the vagrant creamed by a taxi, Have the racist creamed by a fucking taxi. Nothing of value will be lost.
Yeah, her beautiful fucking face would be lost.
Character in a movie. Christine Taylor will be fine, Kit. At school, Laura makes a snide remark to Rochelle, and then her hair starts falling out. Bonnie goes back to the doctor, and the scars just peel off of her body. Was it the treatment? Was it Manon? Who the fuck knows?
I do know one thing. There's no way she would leave that doctor's office without a whole bunch of new tests. They would put her in the hospital like, this is a medical miracle. What happened? We could just peel the scars off, and her skin is not perfect underneath. What?
So what would happen in that case is they would assume that, like, something with their equipment was wrong and that the scars weren't very deep.
But they take the scar and they peel them off. I mean, a clean skin under that. That's...
They're burning off the layers of her skin. And
they weren't,
refreshing.
though. It was targeted gene therapy.
Oh, well, that's so stupid. Is that what it was?
Yes, it was explicitly targeted gene therapy.
I think I must have gone into a fugue state because that sounds like the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And now you understand it correctly.
Wow. Because, like, basically it looked like they were peeling off her sunburn. I was like, all right. Gene therapy for her burns?
Yep.
She has genetic burns?
I didn't write the movie.
This is why I can't watch that one fucking 007 movie.
No Time to Die.
Last one. Yeah. Yeah, that was stupid.
Genetic burns.
Bonnie shows up at school wearing a shirt that shows where her scars used to be, and she turns lots of heads. Nancy is jealous that everyone else's spells worked.
Yeah, she got like just tons of catcalls, like people never noticed this chick before, and now they're seeing her and they're like, nice tits, sexy lady, and being gross about it, and she's just like, tee-hee-hee, I'm so happy, I'm sexy now. It's super weird. I get she's confident, but still.
At home, Nancy's stepfather acts like an abusive creep. Nancy loses her temper, causing the microwave to explode, which kicks her stepfather into a heart attack, which kills him.
Which is not unusual, right?
Yeah.
The microwave explodes, and you're having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Everyone knows
Well,
that.
she was staring at him at the time, so clearly it was her. I mean, to be fair, magic is real here.
Yeah. And Nancy and her mom get $175,000 from dead stepdad's life insurance.
Mm-hmm. That dear sweet man.
Which, I don't know, the way we don't see that much of the character, the way he's written, he doesn't seem like a guy who really care to have life insurance to make sure his family's taken care of when he's gone.
It's part of her magic. Like her magic.
Oh, her magic did it.
Yeah.
Made him sign up for insurance?
He had it through his work. It's not something that he like went out and got it. It's something he had as a benefit through his job.
Ah. And where'd you get that from?
They said that
was
in the movie.
in the movie.
Yeah.
Is it?
The lawyer says that. I think you saw a white guy in a suit and you hit a fugue state.
I think I saw this movie ages ago and just forgot a lot.
The friends visit Nancy and her mom in their new high-rise apartment with its colorful couch and mono artist jukebox like it was designed by a 10-year-old playing The Sims.
You know, that was a weirdly set up apartment. It's like, they really live.
And they only have $100,000. They don't have
Almost $200,000.
almost $200,000. It's not like they're millionaires. How the fuck are they gonna? What are they gonna stay in this place for a month? Like,
I mean, it might be a condo.
yeah, it's a condo in a high rise. You still have probably the homeowners fees alone, or the maintenance fees will fuck you over.
Well, they'll probably have to work. But they can, they can buy a house.
Movie magic, Kit. It's fucking movie magic.
I guess. But still, they could just
of
have
all the
a
things
house.
in this movie.
Since she's making it up anyway, why only $175,000? Why not make it $1 million? Maybe she was a fan of the Jeffersons.
Yeah, moving on up.
Moving on up to the east side.
In Nancy's room, Sarah shows them how to perform a glamour or an illusion spell. Sarah changes her eye and hair color and then changes back.
I hate it. It was so bad. It looked cool on the movie screen, but like watching it in HD, the effect is so terrible. Because her hair doesn't look blonde. It looks like gray-white.
Chris shows up at like 3 a.m. outside Sarah's window, and her dad shoos him away. Then Sarah goes to Lirio for advice on undoing the love spell. Lirio tells Sarah that spells must run their course and drops some spiritual philosophy.
Whatever you send out, you get back ×3.
Wait,
We didn't read that in any book.
No. It's part of a basic spiritual truth, said in many ways, in many faiths. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
That's just so fucking that premise does not follow with what she just justified.
Also times 3. But she's like basically saying, oh, you didn't hear that? Like it's all, everybody knows that. Fucking rube.
What really got me out, like the last nail in the coffin for me and the shamanic thing, right? I had a house and the backyard was like, the ground was full of like construction debris. And I wanted to clean it up.
Okay.
And I had, under this belief system, it was like, all right, if I purify this ground, if I like get the crap out of the ground, that should bring good energy into my living space. So I built this 8-foot by 4-foot box, and I built sifters for the top of it. And I dug out a hole and we sifted the dirt and put the trash in bags and put the stuff back in. And like we do this for like a week working on this. Didn't get much of the backyard done square footage wise, but it was work. And I go to one of these shamanic meetups and I describe this to somebody. And I'm like, so this should work, right? Like this should I'm purifying the land. I'm like restoring it to its natural state. This should bring some kind of good energy in. And he's like, I don't know. You don't fucking know. This isn't like 101 level. This is if you put energy into something, you get energy out of it, like basic transactional kind of energy. No, nothing. And I was like, if like this doesn't compute for you, none of this fucking works, and this is all stupid. I'm just a fucking atheist now.
Did anyone ever say to you the reason you did one of your things, a shaman or whatever, or even just when you were Christian and it didn't work out for you, and this person said to you, you didn't believe in it enough? Did you ever get that?
It's not that it didn't work for me. It didn't have time to work for me. The guy couldn't even comprehend it working.
I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the show, and I know I've never mentioned this to you, George. Years ago, I once, out of curiosity, went to this class at the new school. Was it the new school? Or maybe, whatever, it doesn't matter. At some university they have in this class you can pay for, and they would talk to you about how healing smells.
Aromatherapy,
thank you. So I took a class of that just to see what it was about. Clearly, I had some extra money. And so I'm watching this thing, and this is around the time that Paul McCartney's wife, Linda McCartney, had died of cancer. And so they were talking about, the healing aromatherapy. And someone said, well, Linda McCarthy was into aromatherapy and she still got cancer. And the teacher says, well, she didn't believe in it enough. And that's when I decided, I really hate all of this.
Like, hint, hint, if you have to believe in it, it's not a real thing.
But I was it's just a crass thing to say, she didn't believe in it enough. Like, wow, so she deserved her cancer.
That's literally what it is. Like, if you have to believe real hard in something for it to be true, then that's not a real thing.
Yep.
What I heard from George's story, though, is that he tried to purify the trash heap that is New Jersey and didn't realize digging down, all you get is more trash.
Well, no, I hit a layer that was just harder sediment, so like things below it.
Barricade to the trash that is New Jersey.
I will say this, like that dirt that I sifted, when we poured it back, that dirt felt so very nice to touch.
Yeah.
It was cool and it was smooth. It ran through your fingers. It didn't
100% ripped free of any mycelium.
By the way, I'm backtracking real quick before we move on. I do give the credit to the dad, because Sarah and Chris had gotten together. They may have played croquet and had sex. So thankfully the father stepped in. And
you know what, though? I will say, this dad, Sarah's the...
We're going to get there in a second if you're about to talk about him not being a complete piece of shit.
No, he's not. But of all the dads, I'm like, no, don't go alone in the house with him. I just they've got like a creepy tension, a sexual tension between them.
You're putting things on characters that does not exist in the film.
I think the actors themselves had a tension.
That might be true.
He's a very creepy dude. I'm like, oh, don't touch your daughter. No, get away from her. Sorry, sir. I'm sure you're very nice.
Nancy finds, and surprisingly pays for, a book on how to invoke the spirit. In this case, that spirit is Manon, and she's going to summon it. Him. She identifies it as a him. It's a extra-dimensional being with, a penis.
Yeah.
We've long decided as a society that all the gods are men, except for the goddesses.
You don't have to have a penis to be a man. So,
Fair.
All right.
ahead of its time. She had opened this book and, looked at the picture of what happens, I guess, during the spell, and it's like a storm cloud rolling across a beach?
Beach.
Yeah.
So that's why she had grabbed the book. She saw the Manon, the summoning spirit spell.
Yeah.
Pretty sexy storm cloud. Very masculine.
And then the witches go to the beach and invoke the spirit. The special effects ramp up to lightning striking Nancy as she implores Manon to fill her.
Yeah. I called it Full Highlander when I was watching it. I was like, I am immortal.
The witches wake up on the beach to find Nancy walking on the water and dead sharks spaced evenly on the sand. Nancy calls this a gift from Manon for some fucking reason.
Yeah. He gave her some
Who
sushi.
else is he going to get from?
I mean, it's not dolphins or anything. It's sharks. They're edible. It's good sushi. No, I'm pretty sure. I don't know how many of those would have been considered endangered, but I don't think hammerheads in the North Atlantic are endangered. It's food.
Could Jesus sue for that? The walking on the water thing? Wasn't that his?
No, I think
totally-
she's supposed to be evil witch Jesus. The Antichrist is here.
I know she's evil, but still, that's she's totally ripping off someone else's bit.
Yeah, that's how you know she's capable of miracles, though, because people are unoriginal.
I mean, copyrights, death plus 100 years. Jesus died a while ago.
That's true.
It's going to suck in the sequel to The Craft when they roll away the stone and Nancy comes out.
Or doesn't. She's no longer there.
She's no longer there.
Must have resurrected.
This is a terrible mental health facility.
In the car, Sarah tries to warn the rest that they're in for some shit if they don't stop casting spells all willy-nilly. In response, Nancy drives recklessly. It's not really in response, Nancy was just driving recklessly. In the locker room, Rochelle has guilt pangs watching Laura despairing over her hair loss.
It just keeps falling out. I don't understand it. What did I do to deserve this?
You predicated a Howard Stern bit is what you did.
Rochelle, here's your chance. Now you can say something. It's like, why did she feel guilty? For what? Her hair's falling out. Oh, boo-hoo. Have a bald look then, you racist bitch.
Chris calls Sarah and asks her to dinner. She says yes. The next night in the car, she opens up to him. Then he tries to forcibly back rub her before chasing her and trying to rape her. She runs to Rochelle's house. Monkey paw.
Mm-hmm. Her magic spell, though, was that she had to, accept the love that she was being given or something like that.
Right. I don't know what the film is implying here.
My theory is that if she had, I don't know,
given it up to Chris, it would have just ended.
Yep. We're early on, honestly. That's her monkey's paw magic. But if she doesn't want to have sex with him, she's got to, club him in the head.
Poison him with deadly nightshade.
Deadly nightshade.
What concerns me in that scene, or at least the subtext there, seems to be saying he's so in love with her that he has to have her. Which is, no, and I've seen that shit in soap operas. That was the whole Luke and Laura thing. Oh, he was so in love with her, he just had to have her, and he rapes her.
There was that one guy who was so in love with that woman that he threw acid in her face, and then, they married again. But this is magic obsessive.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think that's love, I guess is where I'm going with this.
The witches gather to hear Sarah's story. Then Nancy leaves to get some revenge. Nancy finds Chris at a party and glamours herself to look like Sarah. She gets Chris into bed. While they're going at it, Sarah walks in. Chris is stunned, and then Nancy blasts him out a window and he falls to his death.
And this is important because this is where you find out that Nancy and Chris
had a sexual history together.
Yeah, 100%. They had a dirty sexual affair, and You know, she had sex with him in spite of, and was continuing to have sex with him in spite of the shit he was saying and doing.
Okay. Can you really call it an affair if you're in high school?
Yeah. I mean, they call it that when some teenage boy is fucking his teacher or some teacher is trying to fuck his TA. It's an affair.
Affairs.
A rapey affair, but it's an affair.
Rape. Pretty sure the courts are.
Yeah, it's a nice way to say unhealthy sexual dynamic. That's what an affair is.
Nancy glamored herself to look like Sarah, and then was having sex with Chris, who thought that it was Sarah.
Was that rape?
Was that rape?
There's no possible consent that can happen in this situation.
Yep.
Like, so they maneuvered it into everybody is assaulting everybody. That's what these writers have done. You realize why Nancy has always been weird about Chris, because she's fucking into him. He's probably into her too, and that's why he's a dick to everyone but her. I mean, as far as I know, he's only actually fucking Nancy, so maybe he's in love with Nancy. I don't know. He fucking dies, obviously. Throws him out a goddamn window. Poor Chris, I guess.
Sarah's dad attempts to be supportive, and she waves him off, saying everything she touches goes wrong. Because it does. Sarah attempts a binding spell against Nancy to prevent her from harming others or herself. And she'll do that twice more in the movie. That night, Sarah is beset by nightmares of her friends strangling her, not in a kinky way. Sarah locks herself in a toilet stall at school, distressed. The witches find her there and magic the door open. She says she wants out of their circle and they threaten her. They sent the nightmares in retaliation for trying to bind Nancy.
She's a child, and they're like, you should leave the city. Where's she gonna go?
Yeah, and so then why do you care if she wants to leave the group?
Yeah.
If you're trying to throw out of the city, just like, oh, fine. You're no longer part of the group. The end.
They're like, also, we don't want you around and possibly not alive.
Yeah, it just seems to rev up for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Nancy is a zealot. She's completely unbalanced. Obviously, she's right to be unbalanced, though. She's seen a power that is unfathomable and great.
Yeah, and it's inside her.
It's filling her.
Oh, it's super gross and creepy, but, you know, most zealotry is.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about religious euphoria, and that's what this person has. So it's going to make you that zealot that is going to do unspeakable things in the name of what they consider a higher power. That's why she's so unbalanced. And they talk about that too. They need to be balanced in the movie.
Yeah, what doesn't?
Sarah returns to Lirio's store. She's taken behind the curtain into a cave where Lirio has built an altar into a place of power.
You can defeat those who challenge you, but you must surrender yourself to the higher power.
Look, lady, she doesn't need a 12-step program. Lirio begins to do magic to help Sarah, but Sarah senses Nancy approaching and bolts. So the place of power is like an altar with a bunch of candles on it, a pentagram on the ground, and like heat haze, a visual effect on the ground.
Because Lirio's gone after this, right? We never see her again.
We never see her again. That doesn't mean she's gone.
And I thought it was so weird that she runs away from Lirio, because what's happening is Nancy is coming to attack her with magic.
Yes.
And is stopped by what looks to be a warding on the magical circle that she's in. So she could have just stayed there and had magical assistance from this witches who like, I'm knowledgeable. Hey, by the way, you, pretty lady, are super strong. Maybe if I, with my knowledge, and you with your strength, work together, we can defeat these bitches. But no, she runs away. So
yeah, okay. So I thought that was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. It was 100% stupid. There was a warning
no factor
on
in the rest of this movie. It didn't have to happen, yeah.
It was just to get her there for the woman to be like, you are very powerful.
At home, Sarah finds her parents gone with a flight number noted in the phone book. Nancy calls and tells her to put on the news, which is reporting a 0-survivor crash of the flight her parents wrote down. And now we have the final showdown between Nancy and Sarah. As Nancy chases Sarah through the house, shadows turn to snakes and bugs start crawling out of everything. Sarah sends Rochelle and Bonnie home terrified with a glamour. And then finally, Sarah and Nancy special effects at each other until Nancy is blasted into a mirror and Sarah can complete a binding spell on her.
Yeah, they were going to fake her suicide. That's the whole point of those slashes. So they could fake a suicide, and they slash her on her wrist the wrong way for the suicide. So I noticed that. Because she would always see bugs and snakes, and so that's why they, like, made sure she was surrounded by bugs and snakes during the whole thing. So they were using everything that, like, creeped her out. And she did see her mom in the middle of that.
That's true, right? Yeah.
She had been looking over at that picture of her mom, and every single time I'm like, make it move! Harry Potter style.
Sometime later, Bonnie and Rochelle show up to apologize and say that they've lost their powers. Sarah demonstrates that she hasn't by causing lightning to strike a tree, sending a branch falling towards where the two former witches are standing. And then finally, we see Nancy on a restraining bed in a mental hospital screaming about how she can fly. The end.
Yep.
Thank God. All right, you brought us into this, lady. So tell us, does it still work?
You know, it's definitely a movie of its time technologically, because obviously the 90s is a very specific place, and no one
Special
having a
effects
cell
history.
phone, and special effects history too. They were like really did not convert to HD very well. Some of the practical special effects were very good, some were not. No one was even like no homo, or even you chicks hanging out are lesbians, which was nice.
It's true. No homophobia in the picture. That's interesting.
The racism was like, racism is wrong. So it got points on that. It was like, you should be nicer to people with disabilities and deformities as well, and address like certain traumas. Like, I think it might still work. Like, I didn't hate it like I did back then. Like, I found the magic-y parts really hokey, but that is literally because I find magic, not Eli Bosnick magic, sleight of hand, but like I find wizards to be very hokey.
In this movie, you think it still works or it doesn't?
I think it might work in a world where magic is real. I think it might work as a movie.
Okay,
A cautionary tale for wishing, not even wishing.
But as we're not in that world.
but we don't live in that world.
And that's like asking, like, does Harry Potter still work? Of course it will. Well, and it wouldn't anyway because of racist goblins. I think it works as a movie.
Okay.
It didn't have blackface in it like the Pink Panther.
No, it did not have black.
Yeah, many points to recommend this movie.
High praise indeed. Really got the over the bar on that one.
No one mentioned their period. And it was in a movie about witches. Like, not one period mentioned. These guys did a good job. In the 90s, no less.
In the 90s, unless George.
I didn't like this movie, but other than like that, whatever the fuck Nev Campbell was wearing in that last scene.
Oh, that weird silver. Thank you. I hated that too. It was like a pinafore or some shit of like this little drop.
It was like a dress shirt that wanted to be a dress.
It was like silk, maybe velour.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Wasn't good. It was a bad costume
ugly
decision.
And I remember exactly what era that dress would have possibly even ended up wearing that to church.
But other than that monstrosity, I taken as it is a story about a bunch of high school witches. Yeah, sure, it works. All of the bad relationship dynamics they're bad in the movie, and it's recognized that they're bad, at least in the fact that none of those relationships work out very well.
Yeah, bad family dynamics, unhealthy living. Moralistically, who people were in their characters, they were in all the right points.
Yeah, I could follow this story. It didn't go off the rails.
No.
So, yeah, sure. I mean, other than the entire premise being literally off the rails.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'll say it still works.
Okay,
Joe?
all right. For myself, I found, because I only saw this thing a couple of weeks ago, and I really should still be able to remember it, and I'm forgetting it, mixing it up with other films. So I can honestly say, if I really hated it, I'd probably remember it better.
Mm-hmm.
But if I liked it, I'd also probably remember it better. So does it still work? I guess it works well enough. It
works well enough
apparently
to
it's not
have
that
made no
offensive.
impact on you.
Exactly.
And another thing I liked is their godly character was not personified. A storm in the sky.
That's that did happen. You're right. Yeah.
So I enjoyed that too. That their godly being wasn't like a real.
You never saw it as with like legs and a head. Yeah.
You experienced it, but you didn't see a corporeal form of them. They just were the existence of themselves. So that was interesting. That I would say was good.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm glad they did not do that. Okay, you got anything coming up you want to promote?
We're going to be doing Mean Girls with Does This Still Work?
But I mean you personally, not the show.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. People don't need to. What, stalkers? Get away from me. No.
I don't know. Just wondering, you're doing something. Okay, George, what's up next?
Next week, Kit, what are we going to be talking about?
Next week, we'll be talking about Mean Girls from 2004. And we will see probably a bunch of references from the movies we have previously talked about these past 2 weeks.
Now, Mean Girls, I have not forgotten. I still think about it. We'll find out if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I make sure to listen like a couple days before the show instead of, because I know we listened to them all, we watched them all in a bunch because you were on leave. Yeah, you should totally watch it again. Let's all get together and watch it. Come to Jersey.
That'll never happen. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
Kit, thank you for, again, showing up. And I'm George Romeka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's no one around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros. That doesn't matter.
What's wrong with Nancy? Her spell's not working. What spell? I don't know. I think she doesn't want to be white trash anymore or something. And I told her, like, you're white, honey. Just deal with it.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
Who's Peter Filardi?
A man with an unfortunate last name.
So we don't have any. They have no other credits
that we're aware of. That we've seen. I mean, you've been here on the show before, Kit.
That's true.
Filardi, oh.
Joe, I'll start with you. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
George, what movie or movie universe would you want to live in after you die?
If you could only subscribe to one YouTube channel for the rest of your life, and this is the only thing you can watch, period.
If you're driving a speeding car and are approaching a child on one side of the road and an elderly person on the other side of the road, what do you hit?
Both of you, what's the last movie that made you cry?